Hi all. We're going to look now at a recent loss of mine against Ilford. So Barnet went away to Ilford Chess Club and I was playing a very strong experienced player, J.Hodgson. Not Julian Hodgson, the Grandmaster, but John is pretty good as well. He's around ECF 193 and apparently he's played in the British Championship 3 times. So I was going in all confident because I've just qualified for the British, thinking, yeah, I'll just beat these whatever I'm playing, 190s, whatever. But, so I didn't know he was an experienced British Championship player himself. And also he's been checking me up on YouTube and finding my opening weaknesses. So I was going into the lion's den a bit, actually, and overconfident. After e4, I played the French defence, which I'm trying to take up now instead of the Sicilian. And we go into this quite theoretical Tarrasch defence line, which, to be honest, I haven't been practicing that much or learning the theory recently. So I was trying to remember the theoretical moves in this line. So this is with knight e2. So in this variation, these knights dance around to these 2 squares eventually, as we'll see. I did c takes d4 immediately because I think f6, there's a tactical variation white has at disposal. Well, not e takes, but actually this knight f4, which I didn't really want to face with this idea of queen h5 check. So I thought taking on d4 I avoid that line. Now queen b6 seems logical. So here is the knights dancing to these two squares. So one's landed on f3 and in this continuation the other one goes to c3. So in this position structurally black's got this problem e pawn as well as the theoretically bad bishop. So one of the plans for black is to potentially liberate this pawn with e5 later. So that's something to be borne in mind. Also, this bishop can later be treated as though it's a kind of Dutch defence. If it can crawl out like this, it's not so bad. So bishop d7 was played, and now he played a3. So this pawn might be immune now. I think it's immune. Let's have a quick look. I just assumed it would be trapped. Let's look with Ribka. Knight a4 and it's trapped. So yeah, it's definitely trapped here. And so a3 secures that trap. In this position, so instead of bishop d7 here, let's have a look at it here. Queen takes b2 here just in case. Knight a4, there's queen a3 here. But is there danger, bishop c1? Queen b4, bishop d3. This is interesting. Ribka gives it as equal, just repeating the position of bishop c1. Anyway, I didn't want to draw. I didn't really want to take that pawn. I wanted the game anyway, so without being too materialistic. So I played in this position a6. Now this a6 is a bit dodgy. I was looking in the master collection of letsplaychess.com, and actually this Dutch defence manoeuvre, bishop d7, might be interesting to bishop e8 might be interesting to consider. So instead of a6, let's consider bishop e8. Now I rejected it because of knight g5, and I thought, well, knight g5, and I'm wasting time, and he's mounting attack, maybe he can play f4 layer. But actually there's a very tactical idea, resource, a very important resource here. Knight ce7, which has scored well for black in the master collection. The idea is that you leave the pawn and pre. If they want to take on e6, you've got bishop takes h2, then queen e6, and white's slightly weakened the king, and it's easier to play in practical over the board chess. So black's trying to exchange off now this previously bad light squared bishop, and in this kind of position it only gives a very small advantage to white now. So I think black's mostly equalised in this kind of variation. So that all started from this idea that bishop e8 is possible, because if knight g5, there's knight c to e7. So this is scoring well apparently from the master collection. Anyway, I played a6, and this has got a big problem I think, because white could have played knight e5. He played b4, but let's see if he had played knight e5, because that's tying this e6 pawn down. And here, if bishop e8, then, you know, white maybe just plays queen d2 with a very nice position, maybe f4 later even. I think slight advantage to white. Black seems to be quite passive. Anyway, he didn't do that. He played b4, and actually we go to quite an original game now. because I played queen d8, and I played quite an alien manoeuvre for this variation. I can't find it in any of the reference games. I played b5, and this does seal the c4 square, which, as we'll see, could have led to a really nice original strategically played game. He plays now rook e8, and now I play queen b8, and I'm parking my queen on b7 now. So this is quite original stuff, but I didn't follow it up with the original plan that I had at my disposal. After rook a8, king h1, he's just waiting for me to play e5. But in this kind of speedy over-the-board game, just played on a club night, it would have been very interesting to consider this manoeuvre. Knight e7 to c8 to b6 to c4. I'll give you a very quick variation on this. So let's see knights. Forget this variation. He just takes bishop f4, slight advantage to white. So let's not move it to f5. Let's move it to c8 as this manoeuvre. And now knight c4. And I think black will be absolutely fine here once the knight comes to c4. And it would have kind of justified this b5. So that's a very interesting new strategic idea as far as I'm aware. Anyway, after king h1 I liberated with e5. There's a point to bear in mind here that I'm translating this potential theoretical backward pawn weakness into this sort of isolated potential pawn weakness. The problem is you shouldn't really label it. I made a mistake of labeling it as a weak isolated pawn, when in fact once this backward pawn's dissolved, let's have a look at this pawn structure. This pawn's got some trumps to it. It supports the e4 square, which I've got access to because I've liberated that e pawn. So this is a very important idea, that this pawn is also potentially a pass pawn as well. But also, you know, this protection of e4 and c4 should really make one a bit more enthusiastic to keep the pawn. But because I was sort of disillusioned as if I've created another weakness, I was too keen to dissolve it. After bishop c5 I played a terrible move now, giving up my dark squared bishop, trying to play the position tactically with d4 and some cheapos with bishop takes h3. No good. I should have just played rook f7 with an equalish, in fact better game, because now I can start to re-maneuver my pieces. For example, knight e2, knight e4, and black is actually better according to Ribka. Slightly better. Black's just more than equalised. This bishop can retract back to b8, and maybe there's queen c7s in the future, weakening white's king. But no, I kind of blew the whole position now, because I had this bad idea about this pawn. This pawn's fine. I played bishop takes c3 with this dodgy combination now, that after d4 I would be playing now knight d5. It's a terrible idea. My original intention actually had been bishop takes h3, but this is no good either, because a bishop takes h7, and white's going to be, you know, much better here in this position. This dark square bishop's quite dangerous. White's threading queen h5. It's no good, and this is just awful, this knight d5. I was under the illusion he'd move the rook. No, he just plays queen h5, just offering the exchange, because this is a crushing mating attack. In fact, I'll just show you that. Knight takes, and then there's this forced mate with queen e5, queen f6, staircasing down to the mate on g7. So after h6, my position's hopeless, because I played the token check, and bishop takes h3, but he just plays queen h7 and queen h8, and now he's winning my queen after queen takes g7, so I had to resign here. Let's have a quick overview and summary. I think the main thing I want to emphasise about this game is the negativity of the translation of pawn structure from the weak, theoretically weak backward pawn on the e file to this theoretically weak isolated pawn. The thing is, that was a very bad label for the d pawn. If only I had seen it as a valuable hooking point to give me access to e4 with a supported pawn, I would have been more positive about the pawn and not wanting so to quickly dissolve it. So I think that's the one real problem and regret about this game, that, you know, I was allowed to liberate my backward pawn with e5, but this translation to this other weakness, it wasn't so much a weakness as a supporting pawn for a knight on e4, especially in this knight e2 variation after rook f7. So rook f7 would have been a massive improvement. There's no real danger of this pin, but it's just a bit of a shame I didn't play rook f7. But these games are under time pressure, and I was under a bit of pressure, so I overly tried to force the position as though it was a puzzle or something. And once you start doing that, you know, you stop playing positionally. So I played bishop c3, and white's just massively better here. especially after d4. I should have just bishop takes h3 might be much more playable here. Just let him take on h7, because this is not so bad as the other variation, knight f6. But white's still slightly better here, but it's not as bad as the game. Maybe it's still even tenable, you know, this position. So this pawn's still not, you know, that grotesquely weak here. So anyway, in the game, yeah, bishop. I just played this terrible knight d5, and it was all over really. So the basic thing to draw from that is not to be too simplistic about your structural weaknesses. You know, look at the dynamic advantages they provide, and you know, be more concrete in your understanding of the pawn structure. I hope you enjoyed that and find something instructive in there. Please leave any comments on YouTube. Thanks very much.